Hey, I think we are live. If I see two people attending, I hope it's not just me and you.
Yeah. I was like, wow, we're getting a
Relatively,
getting a
so
following already. Yeah.
let's hear it from you guys. If you can hear us, just give us a yes in the comments or a hello or whatever, and then we can get started with the chat. I am really excited about this one.
Me too, man.
And the count is increasing slowly. So, yeah. Can you hear us, guys? I know there's a delay. Let me type. Okay. Rakesh says yes. Hello, Rakesh. Good to see you here. All right. And well, your name is tough for me, brother. It's Antarmanish. Okay. All right. Okay. So today I have with me a friend and a very old friend. How many years has it been, Fritz, that we've been connected? Oh, looks like we have a technical issue there. Let's give it a couple of minutes. Okay, there is a technical issue. These things happen in this whole wide world, the funny internet. Well, so so in the meantime, guys, what have you been up to? What is happening in your world in terms of testing, DevOps, anything exciting? You can type in and we can chat. In the meantime, would you be able to answer what are the opportunities in music tech industries? Oh wow, it is a big world, a big market. Okay, so now, especially now when everything is digital, of course, music tech has had its own roadmap altogether, and now especially with people working from home, um, people are unable to go to the studios and record their music. People are doing using online software for recording, creating a studio at home. There is plenty of scope, and in the day and age where you have what you call you know everything digital, videos and all that, there is a lot of opportunity. Oh, well, it rained where I live, so how could I? Okay, friends, we were talking about internet, about my internet, and your internet acts up.
Oh my goodness. Seriously. I was like, what are the chances? I mean, hey, we're a couple of testers. Of course this is gonna happen. So I'm like, I shouldn't be surprised. I think last time we talked there was something weird with the internet too. So it's
Yeah.
like
No, that time it was me.
yeah,
It's your turn, basically.
it's my
All right,
turn. Yeah.
all right, guys. With me, I have Fritz, Michael Fritzius, by the way, but I call him Fritz. He likes to be called as Fritz. We have been connected for how long, Fritz?
Like
Many years.
4 years, 3, 4, 5, 12. I can't remember. A long
Yeah,
time.
many years. I don't remember. And the funny part is that we have spoken on video only once.
Yeah.
And that was 2 months ago when
It
this
was.
call was scheduled.
Yeah.
it is a really funny story as to how two people, two of us, have survived the entire COVID period, uh, and we speak to each other on a video call, and the purpose of the call is to schedule this AMA session.
Yeah.
It's fun, but I can tell you this, that we've had a very strong connection. We've kind of, you know we got connected on LinkedIn. We started following each other, and all the good work that Fritz has been doing. I have been following for so many years. I have had so many inspiring stories to learn from the man sitting on your screen. He's absolutely incredible, and we will talk to him about more of what it is. So let me begin. Okay, my first question to you,
Okay.
Fritz, or unless you want to say something about us.
No,
No.
you did great. You did awesome, man. That was exactly what I said. No, I'm joking. Text in the mail, man.
All right. All right. My first question is, how did testing happen to you?
Oh, how did it happen to me?
Yeah.
Well, that is accurate. It happened to me. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't bring it about, right? I started off my career. I planned on being a software developer, and my first job out of college, it was a software developer. I was an embedded developer. I got to combine the electronics knowledge with programming microchips. The second job I had, the one right after that, was where I got into testing. And I can remember, going through the interview process. It was a startup. I interviewed with like 10 different people there over the span of 2 days. It was pretty cool. But I remember talking with one of the C levels, and he said, "Well, we've actually got two jobs that we're trying to fill a role for." He said, "We've got a role for what we call a quality and performance engineer. So it's a combination of programming and scripting and automation and a lot of testing and coming up with test strategies and research. And the other one, which I can't even remember what the heck it was. I didn't pick that one, obviously. I picked the quality and performance engineer." And so when I told him, I'm like, that sounds like the more fun job. He got a grin on his face. And I thought, yes, I answered right. But, that's really that's how I entered into the world of testing. And I didn't really fully own and identify the role of tester until about a couple years in, when I realized, holy gee whiz, I'm a tester. I'm testing, I test. And my friend Pete, who was working with me, he's like, well, yeah, we're testers, Fritz. Like, that's what I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like, I understand this, like testing, like we're thinking outside the box. It was just a mind blowing experience. So you're accurate. It happened to me, like it was done to me, right? And I've never looked back. It's been an amazing journey. So being a tester, being a consultant, an owner, all that stuff. So, but yeah, that's how it started.
Well, so in all these years, uh, how have you seen testing evolve, and how have you seen testers evolve?
I think the evolution has been, I mean, always automation is something that is in the background of everybody's mind, right? It's like there's always this lingering fear of, is it going to take my job? But what I've seen happen more than that, it's sort of like two parallel tracks of evolution. There's always the, hey, let's go this direction and figure out how to automate what we're doing in the day to day. But I also see a lot of change in terms of communication, like how to communicate with other people. It's not just, do we know how to run a test, but do we know how to communicate the results to our colleagues? Can we make it make sense to the C-suite? Are we able to show this to the stakeholders and show the value? And I think the pandemic has also like made that 10 times more apparent, because people are just really open to communicate with each other and have that good bond. So the things that I've seen happen as far as the testing craft, how it evolves, it seems to center around those two things. Like, Okay, what can we do to make ourselves more efficient, but also what can we do to like ingratiate ourselves with our colleagues and kind of, melt into every other role that we work with. It's not a silo anymore. It's more like we're kind of being advisors to developers, business analysts, product managers, product owners, the directors, VPs, and just kind of being able to move amongst it, you know.
Well, no, that is a great observation, but on the other side, I also see a lot of testers saying, you know, because we work in a team, because let's take an example of a team that's working with Agile. Okay, so let's, for the sake of this discussion, let's take Scrum as the framework which we are dealing with. So it says development team. Okay, it does not say a tester, a developer. So where is the identity? Is a question that a lot of testers ask. What is my identity if I'm a part of a development team? What is my independent identity? So earlier, back in the day, if we go to 2007, 2008, that kind of a time frame, you know, when Agile Scrum and things were just picking up pace. Those days, we had this notion of independent verification and validation, IVNV,
Mm-hmm.
and people were happy saying, "Oh, you know what? Testing is an independent function," and people were happy about it. So now there is less and less of that. So how do you see that?
Well, that's a really good question. Um, I think it goes back to the term that's used. A lot of software development teams, they call themselves development teams, and so yeah, now we don't have this independent team over here that handles the testing. It's not waterfall. We're not throwing it over to the testers, right? But I think I think what we're seeing is it's kind of a lagging indicator, so to speak. Like the software teams are still called development teams, but that moniker needs to change. Like maybe it needs to be called a delivery team or a fulfillment team or something like that, where it's like, yeah, there's development involved, but there's also testing, there's requirements
Yeah.
analysis, there's this constant feedback where the name of the team isn't focused on writing of the code. Um, I don't know how long that's going to take. I mean, I would hope that there's companies out there that would realize, like, we should probably call this team something different so it doesn't seem so dev focused, right? But we're not there yet. I don't know. Is that something that you think would, like, is that going to happen? Like, is
Well,
that something that could be socialized, or can I ask
well,
you
I'll
anything?
tell you the challenge that a lot of people come to me with saying, you know what, I have been doing this for 10 years, and now suddenly, when I should become a test manager, I am told that there is no test manager role anymore
Hmm.
because I'm a part of an agile team. So then they start asking for options. Okay, can I become a scrum master? Can I become a product owner? And I'm like, hello, wait a minute. What is wrong with testing?
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you see a future as a tester or a progression? And the fact is that the way the companies have their roadmap in terms of designations or hierarchy or whatever, those standard ones that we used to see back in the day,
Hmm.
like, okay, you become a test lead, you become a test manager, and then a director of testing or QA or whatever,
Hmm.
that is gone,
Yeah.
because now it's more like an engineering manager, or yeah, of course you see head of testing, head of QA, and all those kind of titles as well, but there is this big gap that has been created,
Hmm.
and because that, people wonder what is my next progression, uh, because very often career is directly linked with designations,
Hmm.
and people look at those titles and say, oh, you know what, testers don't have a future. I can't become a CTO if I'm a tester. I can't become a CEO if I'm a tester. Well, you are a tester. You are a CTO. You're sitting right in front of me.
Yeah.
You. So I know that there are examples. I did an AMA last month with Pradeep Saundararajan. He's a CEO.
Hmm.
He was a tester.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are testers who have gone on and become CTOs and CEOs. But there is this innate fear in people that I can't get where I'm supposed to get because there is no future that I see
Hmm.
in my company. So that is the problem, and that's something that I hope your wish comes true. There is some company who looks at that and says, it's about time we bring a shift. We
Hmm.
start calling our team something different. We recognize that okay, there are testers, and we are able to bring the value back to these people.
Yeah.
So
You
well,
know,
there is a very sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was
Please
gonna
go ahead.
say, like, something you mentioned just now, which I guess if we can get a little bit philosophical for a moment, there's I hear what you're saying, like, and I pick up on that fear a lot. Like, I'm really, really in tune with when people are scared about something and it's like, all right, let's figure out what's got you spooked and let's address it. Um, in my own career, you mentioned, well, Fritz is a tester and he's a CTO, he's a founder. Um, I think the reason why is because I never really set out to become a CTO. I never set out to become a founder. I never thought I'd own a business, first off. And, looking back, it's sort of like it's still walking a path, but I never know from day to day what the next step is going to entail. And I'm okay with that. When I got into testing, I didn't think, hey, there's a clear career path for me. It was like, well, this is different and fun. And I think it would be a riot to do this. So I'm going to do it and just enjoy every bit of it. And then once I entered into the world of testing and got into automation and got into all this other stuff, it's like the progression shows itself. And I enjoy what I'm doing, but I didn't plan on being a CTO. It sort of, it was an accident, man. Sorry. I don't plan anything. I'll plan out test cases and stuff, but as far as like life or whatever, like, we'll see. I got 80 years on this
Well, it
planet. We'll
was.
figure it out. We'll figure it out.
I can tell you this, having known you for all these years. I can tell you that it was a good accident to happen.
Yeah. It's a
Well,
it's a happy little accident, like Bob Ross, the
yes.
painter, would say, right?
Yeah, well, there is a beautiful question for you. I like this question a lot. This comes in from Shubhade, and she's asking, what would be the next what would be the next disruption going to happen in testing and testers? So, what is going to
Oh,
disrupt testing and testers?
wow. So I got to predict the future. You didn't tell me I was going to have to do that. No, I'm joking. Um, the next disruption. Well, I'll tell you what I think the next disruption is going to be, and I'll tell you first why I think that. So, looking at the world of software development, the things that are happening that are disrupting or changing what it means to be a software developer, it's a lot less writing actual code. It's a lot more of just slamming big chunks of stuff together until you get what you want. And it's been like that for decades. I mean, I can think
Right.
back when I was a kid, when I was growing up, and I'm 40. Um, I could remember my dad writing computer programs on a Commodore Plus 4 in machine language. Like that's how you would write programs. And different languages and compilers and IDEs would come along that would make it a lot easier for a human brain to not have to like crunch an abstract idea down into bits and bytes, right? It's like, wow, this is pretty close to what I was thinking of. And now I can get this thing done faster, get it to market, test the market, and say, okay, well, what did we learn from this, and make the next iteration. Um, I think what will happen in the realm of testing is similar. Everybody's like AI and automation are gonna take our jobs, and it's like I don't think they're gonna take our jobs so much as they're gonna change it. Right? They're meant to be something that augments a very powerful skill that testers alone seem to have,
Absolutely.
right? So I don't think it's anything to be scared of,
Yep.
but I think it's something that can be embraced and leveraged, right? So you'll probably see more like we've already got Cucumber, we've already got behavior driven development. Okay, we can already write tests in English for the most part. I think what will happen is maybe the tests themselves will be automatically generated. Maybe the role of the tester will be, okay, how realistic is this? Does this address what the customer wants? And then that de-abstraction, I guess what's actually an increase of abstraction, will be less about, hey, the tester's focused on the software. Maybe the tester's now focused on the customer. We're shortening that gap between where technology stops and where the human starts. So I think that's what is coming down the pipe, which that's why I've been, talking so much with fellow testers about, hey, let's get good at the art of communication and being human, right? Like, I know you know how to test, but we've got this endemic problem where QA people are considered a cost center. Like, we're just spending money, and what value are we getting? Well, because we're not doing a real good job of communicating that value. So the better we are at that, the better we are at humaning with each other. And that's where I think the big disruption is going to come. We're going to be more like the ambassadors of quality, working with other people. So that's where I think. Of course, I could be wrong. Maybe something's going to happen, and like the internet's going to go away or whatever. I don't know. I can't predict. I can't predict, right? But that's the trend that I'm seeing.
No, I think that's a good observation, and I like the point that you made. Especially around AI and automation augmenting to what skills that testers already possess,
Hmm.
and that is really important to understand. Instead of getting scared, if we embrace automation and AI in a way that they are going to make us better testers, more efficient, more productive,
Hmm.
then I think that's going to help us.
It will.
Well,
It will.
well, and I know you're sitting in your truck doing this. I like that so much. And last time I saw you in your truck talking to me, I was talking to my wife later, and I was like, how cool Fitz is. He was sitting in his truck and talking to me, bearing all the heat and
Yeah.
dealing
Well,
with all the heat.
it's actually really nice out here. I was concerned. I'm like, I never know because it's St. Louis. The weather changes like every 10 minutes, right? I'm like, it's going to be hot as balls out here. And it's actually nice. It's like 70 degrees out here. And I'm in the shade, and the girls are out playing. You might hear them yelling or throwing rocks at each other or whatever. Hopefully, I don't have to look at the window and be like, but give them, 30% of parenting is just looking at your kids like that. That's all. Yeah.
Well,
But
I can
it's fun out
imagine.
here.
I can imagine, and I think you've got four girls, so it's a
Yeah.
party all the time.
Man, party. Yes, I like that. Party. Party. Chaos, I mean, is more accurate, but yeah, we'll call it a party. That's fine. It's a big giant estrogen party.
All right. So here's another interesting question from Antar Manish. He's asking why CVs of testers without an IT degree get rejected or not considered.
Ho, ho. Ooh. Oh, that's a good one. Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, I'll tell you what. So human resources, and I say this as a catch-all term, like the people that are in companies that are doing the hiring, or people that are in the recruitment sector. Okay. There is a growing problem with that sector because there are so many people looking for jobs, and there's only a handful of the HR people representing a company. Okay. The reason why those those people get rejected is because they're trying to pare down just the ungodly amount of work that they have to do. Okay. So it's not that you they think you suck. It's not that they think you wouldn't be able to do the job. It's just they have to come up with some really frankly crappy criteria to weed out applicants. The problem with that is I know for a fact there are people out there that would rock socks in a particular role, but they're overlooked because they don't have the right credentials or whatever. I also know plenty of people that have all the right credentials, but who couldn't test their way out of a paper bag. Okay. So it's a big problem. It's a really big problem. And I know that some people in the HR space and the human resources space, they've also been embracing forms of automation that seem to reinforce that. It's like, well, we have a program that will scan for particular keywords, and if they don't have all the right keywords, then we're just going to reject them out of hand, right?
Yeah, that's
Um, yeah,
the ATS is
yeah,
what they call it,
yeah,
the automatic tracking system,
yeah,
where it looks for keywords, and your CV's got to be, first of all, you've got to have the right font size, and I don't know whatnot, and it has got to have all the keywords right, and you can't have
mhm,
any pictures. Some people like, hmm, those
yeah,
kind of photographs. Well, not
right,
allowed anymore. No, no, nice, Scrum Master logo saying I'm a Scrum Master, blah blah. That is not allowed anymore.
yeah,
So you need plain text, and it's got to have those keywords. And testing the ATS itself is a very good idea, and I want to suggest that to a lot of these recruiters who use the ATS for screening. I'm like, God damn it, please test it. That's messed up. In my
it is
opinion, it's
messed up.
messed up
It
because
is.
a lot of good testers miss out because of that
They
ATS.
do.
And
They
it's
do.
not, and to add to what you said, in response to the question from Anthamanish, I think it is a lot to do with uh, additional skills that you acquire when you
Mhm.
upskill yourself. uh, at certain point, it doesn't matter whether you have a degree or not. At certain point in your career, what matters is what skill you have, what kind of
Mhm.
knowledge you have, what experience you have. Now, here
Right.
is a very interesting question, and sorry, a comment that came in from Vishal, and I want to talk to you about this one before I go to the next question.
Okay.
Vishal says, "I think testers should move to DevOps automation." Now, when I think of DevOps, you're the first person who comes to my mind because of Arch DevOps, of course.
Yeah.
So, so So, where does a tester fit inside the DevOps, loop?
Hmm. Right in the middle. Right smack in the middle. Um, yeah, I mean, so DevOps is one of those terms that I think, well, a lot of companies, I know they've overloaded it quite a bit. And to give you a little bit of a background, like, and this is going to sound terrible, but I put DevOps in the name of my company as a marketing thing, right? Like, I don't do that sounds terrible, and we're live and we can't edit this out. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't do like a lot of stuff with Docker and Chef and Puppet. I don't do a whole lot of unit testing. Like, me personally, if I'm going to come into a company and help, like, I'm going to be coming up with test strategies, and I'm going to be doing some with Jenkins, and I'll be writing test frameworks. Like, that's where I come in, right?
Mhm.
Um, DevOps really is, if a company is practicing it properly, it's a mindset. Like, everybody in the company knows we should be able to release the software at any time. And a result of that is, okay, if we have to make a change to the software, we're not going to make these giant big bang once a quarter or once a decade release or whatever. We want to keep it nice and small. So the tester is, kind of going back to what I was saying before about how we're the liaison, we're the ambassador. We're not trying to be all things to all people, but we at least know how to interface with other people. We're right in the middle. We're kind of a hub in a hub and spoke model of a company. So, if a company's practicing DevOps, like, the tester and the developer are going to work together with the idea of, okay, if you're getting ready to make this feature, make sure you're aware of this other thing over here that, as a tester, I know about because I just found a bug over there. Just be aware of it, and here's some unit testing ideas. Here's how to make it Here's how to write your code so that it's easier to test, easier to automate. You got that communication bond there. You're working with the business analysts who are working with customers. Maybe you're even talking with customers, right? You're talking with stakeholders. You're talking with VPs, the C-level, the project owners, product managers, all those people. So they're right in the middle if a DevOps model is being done properly.
Well, I love that response. I like that because I was talking to you know Richard Forjo last week, and then before that, I've also had a chance to talk to Aaron Kinsberger, who who is big on DevOps, and he believes that the fear that a lot of testers, I'm sorry for using the term, manual testers have is that they don't see any future when it comes to DevOps and stuff. But if you look at the DevOps loop, you can test everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the problem? Why are you getting worried? And this famous Dan Ashby picture. We test here, we test here, we test here. In the DevOps loop, you remember that? That's a very famous one, and we test everywhere. So for testers to start worrying and thinking that okay, our only escape route now is DevOps or automation. Sorry, friends, I have a message for you, and that is it's not true at all. As testers, you can do a lot. Focus on the craft.
Mm-hmm.
Become better testers. Write better strategies. Ask better questions. You know,
Mm-hmm.
as testers, our job is to question the software, right? If a
Absolutely.
developer develops something and gives it to us, and we just pick it up and run with it, not done, right? You should ask. You should ask questions, and that's what we are going to be talking about. Well, as we were talking, what are your thoughts on scriptless, codeless automation tools and AI in testing?
I think it's it can kind of I think it kind of masks a bigger issue, right? Anytime I see a tool come on the market that says, "Hey, you can automate all your testing and not write a line of code," or "We're going to use AI in testing." So there's two different things: codeless and AI. Just two separate answers here because I've got two separate gripes with these terms. I'm joking.
Mhm.
So codeless, right? There seems to be this idea that testers are scared to code. They're scared to write software. And I have worked with some people that are like, I don't want to become a developer. And it's like, well, we're not saying that you need to become a developer, right? Like if you're going to write any kind of test automation, like it should be less complex than what the developers are writing. Otherwise, you've just doubled your maintenance. If it's just as complex as what they're writing, it's like,
Yeah,
that's twice the problem. You got to maintain that
yeah,
mess, right?
yeah,
Um, so coming up with ways to do codeless automation. I mean, there's a market for it, but the market is based on a misnomer, a misfear of coding is scary, and it ties back to the whole, testing is a cost center. Developers are awesome.
yeah,
Software development is cool, but it's scary. It's a walled garden kind of thing. So I think that although they mean well, God bless the companies that are out there developing these things to try to solve a problem. But the bigger problem is that writing software is so stigmatized. Like you have to be a wizard to write code. I am not a wizard. Okay. And I know how to write software. It's a learnable thing. It's not a dark, arcane art. Like, we're on YouTube right now. You can watch YouTube videos and learn how to code. Big secret. Okay. So that's on that side. The other side of it is AI. Okay. We probably all have our own ideas on what artificial intelligence is. I know for a fact that there are some companies out there that have software, they have platforms where they say, oh, we use AI. And you look at it and it's like, it's just an if else structure. That is not artificial intelligence. There's no machine learning. The computer's not deciding or learning or saying, hey, we're taking in this data and we think this is the right answer for this. We're going to try it. And hopefully the human will warn us if we're not on the right track. But that's not really AI. I know that there's a lot of marketing being used that, you know, they say it's AI because they want to look current, they want to look, you know, cutting edge. Yeah, we use AI, we use machine learning, we're using predictive analytics, and it's like, they're not really doing that. So I know that there are some tools out there that do use AI, but again, it goes back to the whole like, okay, what's the reason here? Are they using AI to try to generate automated tests because coding is scary? Probably. Are they trying to save time and maybe rolling over the problem of, well, do we actually know what constitutes a good test?
Right.
So yeah, it's all. I think pretty much every answer I'm going to have, and I hate to say this, but it's all going to come back to communication. It's all
Well,
going to come back to communication, man. You know,
well,
improving the testing
while
parameters.
you were talking, we've had Dusty join us. So
Yeah.
Dusty has a question for you,
All
in
right.
fact. And
Hey, buddy. All right.
oh, so good to see you, Dusty. And here's Dusty's question: as a tester, I find myself discovering fewer critical defects over time due to pull requests, code reviews, mobbing, automation, CI/CD, etc. Where do you see the focus of QA shifting? That's a beautiful question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I can always trust this guy to come up with some good stuff. He's
Yes,
always been insightful, and I think he and I have
always,
known
always.
always, man. I think he and I have known each other about as long as you and I have, so we're like cousins. So the focus of QA shifting, I think, if you're finding fewer defects at the ground level, first, that's a very good thing. That's a very good thing. I think that means at your company anyway, they're doing a better job of catching things ahead of time. Really deep down, as testers, that's what we want. We don't want to have to constantly be like, oh my goodness, they're relying on me for finding this, right? That's a good thing. Better software means more job security. The focus of QA is shifting toward less technical and more personal, more interpersonal, right? So whereas right now many testers are going to be focused on, okay, I got to test the code, I got to make sure that there's no bugs, I got to find all the critical high urgent stuff that's in there. When that starts going away, well, now our focus can turn more toward working with the customer. Like, how can I get better quality based on what the customer said? So it's almost like we're still thinking in terms of testing, but we're behaving like um, almost like a business analyst or almost as a project manager kind of thing. But it's more of a communication, more of an interpersonal type of thing. So we're going to get it's going to be less it's going to be less technical, less hard skills, a lot more soft skills, a lot more talking. But that's good because the challenge that we see these days, at least what I see in QA, is people aren't really seeing the value. They're not really seeing the value of QA. So if we're getting better at talking, if we're getting better at communicating, then that problem will start to wane quite a bit, I think.
And since you spoke of value, here's a question on value. How do you want to change the way testers should portray their value?
Okay.
This is a
Well,
good one from you, Kshitij. That's a
yep.
good question. I
Yeah,
can trust
totally.
this guy for very good questions,
Good. Well,
just like Dusty.
I've never met him before, so I trust your judgment. If you think they're asking good
Oh
questions,
yes,
that's good.
yes,
Um, how testers portray their value? Well, I mean, if you're working in a business, every company, and this is a dirty secret, right? Businesses, they like to make money. They like to make money, right?
yeah, yeah.
So, there's always that kind of like the return on investment. Okay, if I'm going to pay a tester X amount of dollars per hour, yeah, I'm in my car, I'm in my truck. If we're going to pay testers X number of dollars an hour, and they're going to find this many bugs, it's like, all right, well, what is the cost of a bug? And this is really it's a fun exercise if you're a numbers nerd like me. But there's always going to be tangible and intangible costs to a bug, right?
Yeah.
A tangible cost will be Okay, I found a bug, and now a developer, at least one developer, has to stop what they're doing and context switch over to fixing this bug. Well, how much does the developer cost? It costs this much more an hour, more than a tester, wildly enough, right? But they cost this much an hour. It takes them this long to fix the bug. Okay. So during that time, they could have been working on this other thing that could generate more revenue for the company. Now that's a little bit behind. What's that cost? Um, if the bug were to get out into production and it affected, 10% of your customer base, and 10% of that 10% decided, okay, we're going to quit the service because that's just all I can't stand this anymore. I'm tired of this buggy crap and I'm going to stop and I'm going to go to a competitor. Well, you've lost out on that revenue. Whatever you're charging for your product or your platform or your service, now you don't get that money. Now you have to spend time on sales and marketing to recoup that in order to keep your customer base from dwindling. Like there's all these numbers that are involved that a lot of companies don't realize because nobody's come to them and said, every bug you miss costs you $150,000. And to
Right.
say that with a straight face and look them right in the eye and be able to justify that and say 150 is probably a conservative estimate. It may cost more than that. It may be 500,000, but I'm erring on the side of I want to be at least not wrong. But the way testers portray their value should be directly tied to the business. And
Right.
I get it. I mean, early on in my career, like that second job I was talking about, like I could not do that. I did not have the ability to do that. So if you're just starting off in the testing world, it could be a big ask, right? But at least
Yeah.
thinking about like how does what I'm doing affect the company as a whole? When I find a bug, what does that mean for the colleagues that I'm working with? Does it mean they get to go home sooner? Does it mean, over time the software is better? Like we're able to keep our customers happy? Like I'm doing some things here that like 7 or 8 degrees separated from that action, it's having some results and being able to communicate those results to the higher ups in terms of money. That's a really, really good way
Yeah.
to display your value. And I've worked with some testers over the years that are really good at that. Like they'll just jam out an Excel spreadsheet and they'll just put numbers in there. And it's like, how in the thunder did you come up with that? Like there's a lot of variables, right? But it absolutely can be done. It should be done. I think we all ought to do that as an exercise. So we can value ourselves higher and be like, man, I'm saving this company like $5 million every year.
Well, so a few years ago, I was working with a company which was manufacturing these storage devices, the data storage devices, the tapes and the hard drive storage devices. And so, as a part of our testing thing, we were doing testing. Software was given to us. We used to test. We used to give them back. I was like, this is no fun. Let's
Hmm.
try and do something additional along with our testing that the customer would like.
Hmm.
So my team came up to me and said, "What can we do?" I said, "Let's do a simple thing. Okay, so you are working on a test which requires you to reboot the big, device 10 times,
Hmm.
and either you have to call up somebody and say, okay, do it in the lab, or if you are there close to the lab, you have to like go down to the lab, you know, reboot it, then come back to your desk. Then it takes a lot of time. How do you
Hmm.
save that time?" Then a guy said, "Can we not write Perl scripts to do that?" I said, "Absolutely. That is how you bring in value, and that's automation." I mean,
Hmm.
you if you are complaining too much about the fact that, oh, I'm a manual tester, I'm stuck, I don't know what to do. That is a solution for you. And he did that, and he said that every time that script saves me at least 15 minutes of my time.
Hmm.
And I said, okay, now 15 minutes of your time, turn it into money. How much money are you saving? And in a month, it was like, initially in the first month, it was like $16,000. I said, okay, that's a good start. We'll see next month. The next month, it was like 27,000 something.
Hmm.
And then it kept on increasing because the scope was growing. He said, we are close to saving $500,000. And I'm like, this is exactly what testing does, and that's how you show the value.
Mm-hmm.
And when we presented that thing to the customer, the whole it was a simple collection of Perl scripts that could do these things like reboot a system, then notify you when the system is showing some alert, and you have to go down to the lab and discover, or any further troubleshooting is required. Then it will show you a list of items from the log saying, okay, this is where we are starting to see errors because that part of the device is heating up or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And and the customer was so delighted. He's like, okay, now are they going to pay us $500,000 for the money that we have saved up?
Nah, they'll just say thank
but
you. Amazing. Well
no,
done.
but what you said is absolutely right. Tied to the business, show the value in terms of how much money you are saving,
Mm-hmm.
and you're on your way. Well, on that note, there's another one from Dusty, and he's asking. So, uh, to usability and design to automation, development to DevOps, other roles, is QA becoming more specialized or generalized? Now,
Hmm.
this is a very good question. I like when this discussion starts about generalizing the craft, and
Mm-hmm.
I had a very long discussion about this subject in one of the interviews that I did with Matthew Middleton, and he had some very insightful thoughts about it. It is there in one of the interviews, Test to Speak interviews that I did with him. I will share the link of that video in the description of this particular video, so people can go check that out. Well, so meanwhile, over to you,
Yeah, and
Prince.
I saw that, and I'm like, that looks like a really fat question. I hope Rajesh doesn't say it because I don't have an answer. I'm joking. Um,
No, it's from
yeah,
Dusty. We've got to answer that.
just bake it up, man. You got 2 hours. Um, I think so. I think so. The last part of the question says, "Is QA becoming more specialized or more generalized?" And I would say it's it's being fragmented. And what I mean by that is, we're coming out of an era where QA is thought of as testing, right? Like, there's
Yeah,
testers or QAs, right? They're assuring quality, great. But each one of these, UX design, automation, development, DevOps, there's all kinds. There's performance and load and stress testing. I mean, there's a lot of different specialties that we can get into. And the reason why I think it's a good thing is because if you're looking inwardly at yourself and you're like, okay, what do I really love doing? And what am I really good at that the world needs, that the world is willing to pay for? It becomes much easier, going back to what we just said in the previous question, conveniently enough, it becomes much easier for us to convey the value if we're really, really freaking good at performance testing. Okay, like Scott Moore, I know that guy right off the top of my head. He's like a whiz at performance testing. I keep
performance
trying to
testing.
figure out, yeah, I keep trying to figure out ways. I'm like, I want people to, have a project where I can be like, Scott, get in there, buddy, and bill a little bit extra for him, right? It's like, well, farm him out, because I know you do a really good job. But he really understands it. He specializes in it. The world definitely needs it, and they're willing to pay money for it. So, whereas right now, it's like you pick any two QA testers, they're not going to have the same skill set, but they've got the same
Right.
label. Now we're getting to a point where we can say, okay, this person is a really good UX person that understands QA. Okay, they've got a very particular niche. They understand usability, but they also understand how to test for usability, how to test for accessibility, that kind of thing. This other person is really good at security testing, which is also another form of quality assurance. But, we all know hacking is bad. So, okay, every time I find a security vulnerability, it's going to save the company this much money. It's a lot easier to portray the value. So, like I said, it's being fragmented, but I think that's a very, very good thing. There's going to be probably everybody on here has got a particular type of testing that they just really, really like doing,
Yeah.
or a particular type of automation that they're like, man, I just get foamed up every time I do this kind of work. Like,
Or
yes,
they're really good at.
yes,
There are things that
exactly.
they're really good at. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so they can now have that ability to just run full force into it and say, this is what I'm doing. This is the value I provide. I solve this kind of problem. Yeah.
Okay, and this is a question from Mahati, and she's asking, could you share some information on how to build a test portfolio?
Mhm.
What are the significant points that have to be kept in mind?
Okay. Well, I'm going to encourage people, if they're building out a test portfolio, to think of it in terms of variables, right? So a company, if they're looking to hire a tester, they're going to be looking at previous experience. Okay. They're ultimately they're going to want to know, can this person help find the kinds of bugs that we know we have? Okay. The things that they're going to be looking at are, what's the size of the company that you worked at previously? And I'm assuming, and I guess I'm putting an assumption in here, I need to, as a tester, not assume things, right? Are you talking about building a test portfolio off of places you've worked previously, or am I misunderstanding the question? Can I ask
Yeah,
questions of people? Can I ask questions back? Is that
you can,
legal?
but
Okay, cool.
I can try to at least give some insight into your assumption. Well, there is. Uh, so let's look at a particular geography. Let's say, for example, India.
Mhm.
Okay. Now there is over reliance on what you have done previously. In what kind of company have you worked? What was your role? What was your designation? What was your last drawn salary?
Mhm.
Even, there is an overemphasis on all of that, and so that is why testers get confused that if I have to build a portfolio for myself in testing,
Mhm.
irrespective of what location it is, okay, how should I go about it? Because if I do it keeping that particular geography in mind, my portfolio is going to look as messed up as it can be after 10 years.
Mhm.
Because whether do I chase money, do I chase a designation, do I chase companies, what do I do, is the question that they would ask. But
Mhm.
let's assume that you want to create or have a portfolio where you are not bothering about, okay, what companies you've worked with or what salaries you've drawn or what designations you've had in
Okay.
general. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Yeah. Well, I would say, focusing on the types of problems that you've solved previously. So in the world of QA, um, like I've hired testers before, so I would be looking at what sectors, then maybe not so much what companies, but what sectors, um, what projects, like what was the overall goal of the project, what was the problem, the original problem, like, hey, we needed to get through this much testing in this amount of time, we were really pushed, or we had this much budget, we had to do it on a shoestring, or there was this much risk involved, and what was the action you did, and then what was the result. Okay. This is different, so I'm glad you used the term portfolio instead of resume or CV,
Yeah.
because I've seen a lot of resumes where it's just, I worked at this place from this time to this time, I did this duty, I did this duty, I did okay, well, like, if I'm a hiring manager and I'm looking at somebody's resume, I'm really looking to see, like, can they help us? Like, do they have the skill to help this company either make or save more money than what we're actually making or saving? Um, if they show that they're focused on, I want to be a benefit for the company, I want to come alongside and work with you guys and help you achieve your goals better than what you can do right now, and showing the numbers, like, we got through the testing phase 50% faster, or we saved $250,000 year over year doing these particular practices that I put in. If you can show the problem, the solution, and the result of what you did, then that's a really, really good way to build a portfolio. And if you want to, like, if you want to take it a step farther and have some place online, like just a small website or a blog or something on Squarespace or Wix or whatever, and just start using that as an online repository of what you've done, or start getting more of a content strategy, like people are going to see what you're doing.
Yeah,
People are
that's
going to see
that's
what
that's
you're doing.
why you build a portfolio on GitHub, and have your and share that with the rest of the world, saying,
Yep.
okay, you know what, I I write automation frameworks for fun.
Mhm.
Here it goes. Show and present it to the rest of the world.
Yep.
Uh, well, talking about automation, I wanted to always ask you this. You wrote a post, a famous one, the danger of being a full stack tester.
Yeah.
Is there a full stack tester? First of all,
Oh, sure. It's just a title. You can call yourself that. You want to call yourself that? You can. You can start right now.
no, I would like to call myself a full stack CEO, not a
Okay.
full stack tester.
Well, just do it. Just start, man. I call myself a CTO. I'm the only employee in my company. I can call myself the master and commander. That's just a title. No, I mean, there really is. And I think
So,
it
what is the
because
danger of being a full stack uh, tester?
uh being drowned in fear, honestly. And I think the the danger is still there. And I remember writing that article where it was you don't want to spread yourself too thin. And this is, before the pandemic, obviously. And now that we're coming out of the pandemic, and now we're getting closer to this critical point where the QA craft is gonna probably fragment into separate pieces, where there's a lot of different specialties out there. Um, Approaching a company and being that role of full stack tester is really, it's based out of fear. Like, I want to be as relevant as possible. So I want to come to every company and be like, I can be whatever you want me to be. Just pay me money, right? And that's a danger, right? That puts that for the first, it sort of devalues you in a couple ways. Okay. The
Yeah.
first is, well, I'm trying to be all things to all people. I'm basically I'm a slave. Okay. Which as testers, we are valuable. And I'm not saying this like from a position of ego or hubris or anything like that. But guys, we find billions and billions of dollars worth of defects in software. We are worth money. We're worth a lot more money than what we usually get paid. Okay. So you are worth it. Okay. But the second thing is that term full stack is often used with full stack developers, which
Mhm.
goes back to the whole everybody's focused on developers. Like, developers are just the rock stars. And it's like, well, they're the ones writing the bugs, guys. Like, so calling yourself a full stack tester is like, well, I kind of, I want to use a term that people are familiar with, but which is attached as an adjective to the world of software development. So you're kind of piggybacking your identity as a tester on top of developers, but then you're also devaluing yourself in terms of, hey, I'm just trying to be all things to all people. So yeah, I mean, there is such a thing. Maybe it hasn't been called that just yet, but there definitely is a mentality of never say no, never turn away work, always do what you're told. And it's like, it's not really a good thing to do. You're
Well,
worth it.
well, whenever you find time, just look up LinkedIn
Mhm.
and search for full stack recruiters.
Oh
You will get
man.
you will get so many. You will also get full stack marketing specialists.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that. I don't know who invented that term anyway. Full stack. Like what?
Who defines that stack is my question.
Yeah,
What
it's like
is
what?
that
Like
stack?
yeah, man.
And, and how do you know if it's full, half, empty? Uh, I don't know what else.
I'm dealing with a half a stack, man. He's not dealing with a full stack. Oh man.
I would love to see. I would love to see somebody else's stack tester. You know,
Yeah.
I don't have a full stack, so I borrowed somebody else's stack, and
Yeah. Oh,
well,
here's one. Here's one. How about this? How about try this on for size? Fractional full stack tester. Huh? Right? Huh? No.
I like that. I
Oh,
like
that is
that.
just
Maybe I should.
so
Maybe.
corny. That is so corny. Like, I'm gonna put it on my. I should
If,
put that
and
on
if
my
somebody
business card.
and if somebody goes and asks you what's fractional, then you
Yeah.
can say, okay, if you can define what full stack is, I'll give you the answer of what fraction,
There we go. And
what
there's a
fraction
going.
I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh man, that would be the most awkward job interview ever. They'd be like, "So, we're not really getting anywhere." Yeah.
No, but the thing is, your CV should get shortlisted first.
Oh my
They'll see
goodness.
that fractional. They'll, maybe ATS will reject it.
Yeah. Maybe, or maybe it'll put it through. It'll be like, "Whoa, this guy's serious." Yeah, bring him on through.
Now, so I remember you shared a story once where um, you and your daughters thought of, or rather, your daughters actually were thinking about this coffee shop idea,
Hmm.
and you shared a story. So, what happened to that idea? Are you still on? Are the girls still on with it, or is it going to happen sometime?
Oh, I no, they're not on that anymore. They've got. I mean, they come up with business ideas probably once every 3 months, and we're not going to be like, oh, that's nice, dear pat. It's like, all right, let's run it to ground. Let's see if it's viable. Ask them the questions, right? I mean, the fact that they wanted to charge $15 for a big cup of coffee was like, I didn't say it on the interview, but I'm just like, holy moly, like, what does the worldwide inflation have to be in order to have that be, it better be some good coffee. But I didn't say that out loud. But yeah, they're constantly coming up with ways
But they
to.
had a justification to the $15 coffee, right?
They had
They
what?
told
They
you
had
why.
what?
They told you why it was $15, right? They had a justification for that.
They just other than just big dick energy, I mean, they made it that. They were like $15. 5, 10, and 15 for small, medium, and large. I don't know why. They didn't have a justification. They're just cuz. It's just yeah. That's just what we charge. Deal with it. I'm like, wow. Bill Gates is their only customer. But yeah, they're helping my wife and I with our business. So they're hustlers, man. They were talking with somebody the other day, and I was working on doing something, and I heard our oldest, Lorica, she's 11, and there was a lady that was talking about, um, she's been looking for some different things, and her little boy had dry lips, and Lorica was like, "Well, my mom and dad, they have this business called Exactly Zero, and they make stuff
Yeah.
like lip balms, and they make all different things, no preservatives or stabilizers or anything." And I'm looking, and I'm like, dang, she's got this down. Like, maybe we should give her some business cards or something if she's going to, like, you know, go hustle for us, right? But she found out that the lady was really interested in trying out some sugar scrubs and stuff like that. And I'm like, wow, that's something. So they've got that sales bug. They've got that entrepreneur bug in them. I don't know where they get that. Oh my goodness. Um, but
I was
yeah,
going to ask you that. Is it you or your wife?
it's
Where did
me.
you get it
It,
from?
it's me for sure. My wife, she loves the production aspect of it. So she's the one that's always making the lip balms and brewing up the stuff for soaps and sugar scrubs and bug sprays and things like that. But she's like, I hate sales and marketing. And I'm like, great, because I love sales and marketing and I will do that for you. So I'm constantly doing outreach and
And you have
prospecting.
and you have an army at home to support you with your sales and marketing
Yes.
already.
Yes. We were catching up with some good friends a couple days ago. And I was a little, I, there was a time, it was like a split second where he was talking about what he's doing because he's starting up a business and he's building a team. He's like, I got a team. I've got 2 people that I want to work with. We're all 3 going to go in together. And I can remember a time when I had a team and the sales dried up and the pandemic happened, unfortunately, and everybody's fine, but I had to let everybody go. I had 2 employees and an intern. And I can remember a time when my team, we were sitting together and we were eating pizza at a place in downtown St. Louis. And I'm like, dang, I am blessed. We can do some amazing stuff together. And for a split second, my friend Joshua, when he was talking about this, I'm like, I was jealous for a little bit just now, for like 2 seconds. I said, because I'm like, I want a team. Like, I don't want to do everything myself. I want to like be part of a thing that's bigger than me and do more than, like, if there's 4 or 6 or 10 or whatever, like we're doing more than 10 times the amount of work. And then I stopped thinking that because I thought, I've already got a team. I've got a wife that's really awesome at making this stuff. And I've got little girls who are growing and learning about
Yeah.
business. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't raised that way. I didn't learn this stuff. I accidentally fell into this, right? But I'm able to teach them and influence them. And they've all got gifts. And I'm like, I've already got a team. Yeah. It's not testing. It's not testing stuff. So it's a
No,
little bit
no.
off topic, but it's exciting.
I mean, I mean, hearing those stories of your little girls doing all these cool things, helping you with business and having those business ideas, talking through them, it is so inspiring. I mean, those little girls, when I read about that coffee shop story, I
Mhm.
know about the 5, 10, 15 thing, but
Yeah.
it was so beautiful to hear that, that they have this idea. Is like, okay, why do you have to go so far when you can have it here? And
Mhm.
it is, I think, one of the things that came out was if you say it's too expensive, well, you're just having coffee next door, so why wouldn't you pay for it? It's like it's like a strange response. It's like, you want all the good stuff and you want it for free. Sorry, we're not going to give it for free. So we're
Yeah,
going to charge it, and we're going to
that's
charge
right.
you good amount of money. So
Yeah. We're paying for the experience, we're paying for the ambiance. They had it all planned out. They were like,
yeah,
our coffee shop's gonna have like a book nook, and it's gonna have like places where you can just chill and relax. And it's like, that's, if I could hang out for like 3 hours, I'd pay $15 for a cup of coffee. I
yeah,
would.
right,
I
right.
would. It still ought to be good coffee, and it better do it, do the job, but I'd pay that to hang around. Free Wi-Fi? Yeah. Sign me up.
There is a good question again from Kshitij, and he's asking, what is your futuristic vision of testers and testing tools? Maybe a couple of decades or more from now. Again, the visionary, the future, the fortune teller, Fritz,
Yeah.
is being called upon.
Which I screwed my wrong brain in for prognostication, right? But I'll do the best I can. Fake it till you make it. I think that, wow. See, it's kind of odd to answer this question because today we've got things that we never would have dreamed. Like, what's a blockchain? You could ask somebody that even 5 years ago, probably, and they'd be like, I don't know what that is, right? Um, we've got that. We've got, you and I were talking over video. I don't think StreamYard was even around 5 years ago.
Mhm.
This kind of communication, I can remember sci-fi shows back when I was a kid where it was like, oh, this is in the future. And it was still like the choppy, like 1 frame per second, and now it's like real-time communication. So, the technology we have today is going to kind of paint my answer, but I think the future is going to be more like, it's more like a singularity, like everything's happening all at the same time, where I know Dusty mentioned the idea of mob testing. Like,
Mhm.
maybe that's going to be a thing. Maybe a worldwide scale
Yeah.
of testing is going to be where people can plug into this massive network of testers that get the job done. And maybe that's a thing. Maybe there's a form of crowdsourced testing where you can base what automated tests would provide the most value by doing really, really specific, like canary testing, where you're releasing this to this particular person, and like, how are they using it, and then base your tests off that, using a combination of machine learning, AI, whatever. But I really, really, truly think that the testers and the testing tools, they're gonna focus a lot more on the communication aspect. Like, how do you make it really easy to fully understand what a piece of software is doing compared to what it is supposed to do? And any discrepancy in there is like, oh, hey, there might be a bug in here because there's some unmet expectations somewhere. But
Yep.
testers asking the right questions, right? So I think we're moving, and I know I said before, it's like, yeah, there's tools out there that are trying to move away from coding because coding is scary. Like, this is not that. I think the right tools are the ones that are going to move people toward something else, not move them away from something like, oh, repel, scary, but move them towards something else. Move them more toward, how do you make it easier to communicate with other people? How do you make sure that the left hand knows what the right hand's doing in
Doing it.
terms of
Yeah.
what the software? Every single bug, seriously, every single bug that has ever been found, ever in the history of QA, has been the computer did what we told it to do instead of what we wanted it to do,
Yeah.
right? So if you can shorten that gap and say, all right, well, here's what I thought it was going to do, and here's what it did, and be predictive about that, then I think that's what we're going to have. I don't know what it's going to take. I mean, I want to say, oh, it's going to take machine learning and AI and blockchain and blah, but there's probably some insight or some innovation coming that we don't have any idea about, that's going to make the rounds in like 3 years. And it's like, oh, that really applies well to testing. Let's just slap
Yeah.
it in there and see what happens, right? I don't know what it is.
That's right. Yeah.
So I can't predict that far ahead into the future. My range is only about 17 days. So it's
17
the best I
days.
can do, man. I didn't know I was going to have to predict the future on this show. You didn't say anything in the
Well,
NDA, man.
no, I don't give warnings. So I, I don't give warnings. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, again, a good question from Kshitij, and he's asking, what advice would young Fritz have for you today?
Oh man.
So I'm assuming you are talking about a younger version of Fritz, or are you probably, Kshitij, you could clarify? Are you seeking advice from the four little angels that Fritz has at home? Because they also have advice to offer. I can tell you this.
Especially that 5-year-old, and she'll yell it at you. She'll be like, just do the thing. Ah. Well, I would say young Fritz would not have said this, but I think if I could go back and like educate my young self in order to educate my future self, I would want young Fritz to tell me, man, take a lot of risk, take more risk, do some crazy. You are tougher than you think you are. You can do a lot of things and just run out, and you don't have to plan. You don't have to know everything. You just do it. Just do it. The problem is, young Fritz never in a million years would have said that to me. I was a very risk averse guy. So probably young Fritz wouldn't have good advice. Probably young Fritz would be like pooping his pants. Like, what am I doing? Like, where did I go wrong? Where 20 years from now, I'm running a business and I've got 4 kids. Don't you know what causes that? Yes, we do know what causes that. And, you can go through life and live with reckless abandon and just enjoy everything that comes at you and know that it doesn't matter what happens, you're going to get through it. You're going to be fine. And you're going to have some amazing opportunities. Or you can play it safe. And I've done both. And I vastly enjoy running with scissors, basically. It's just like, oh my goodness. Like, I'm not dead yet. And I've been fine so far. It's been hard. But every single bit of what I've learned over the years, every struggle, every heartbreak, every pain, every success, every happy moment, it all comes together. And I'm using 100% of everything I've learned every single day, man. Seriously. I have been the last week, it's kind of weird, but I've been focused a lot more on the business that I was mentioning before. And I was just telling my wife Charlotte yesterday, and I said, babe, I said, I'm using every bit of what I've learned with Arch DevOps. I said, I'm doing all kinds of sales and marketing. I'm doing a crap load of automation. I'm helping with production. And the reason why I can help with that is because I've had like process drilled into me by a previous client. They didn't realize that they were influencing me that way, but like just something
Yeah.
snapped and I'm like, holy moly, I love process. And every bit of it, man. But you know, the hard times are what make you tough. So just
Yep.
run into it, whether it's a good or a not so good thing that happens, it's going to strengthen you. You're going to be better as a result. So young me would never tell me that. Young me would be like, dude, what the heck are you doing, man? You're making us look bad. That's what young me would have said. That's what young me would have said.
Well, that's a beautiful response. And I started thinking what a young me would tell me.
Mm-hmm.
I started, and I was like, the young me would actually be lost.
Yeah.
This, like, rather than giving me some advice.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I like that question, Shitish. Thank you
That
for
is good.
asking
That is
and
good.
triggering that thought in my head. I've got to think hard about the response, but maybe I can come up with an answer later after thinking. Well, I want to ask you something. So I saw a question on LinkedIn, and that was on the test chat community page, and it spoke about testability.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in my experience, in the 20 plus years that I've been doing testing, testability I have observed is probably one of the least spoken subjects in the world of testing.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we testers speak more about testability? Because I see that as the root of many problems that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it that we are not speaking enough about it?
Well, if I could channel my inner James Bach for a moment, I think it's because we don't fully understand or own what is a test, right? So going back to the scientific method, when you're performing a test, it's like, all right, well, I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I think I know what's going to happen. And here's what I need to do to bring that about. And then here's what I need to do to measure to see if what I thought was actually going to happen happened. Okay. That's the nature of a test, right? So when we come to the table and we're talking about testability, if we really think about it, what we're saying is we need to have an idea of what this piece of software is supposed to do. We have to have an input and trigger some event or whatever, and then look at the output and see if what we thought was going to happen happened, right? When something's not testable, then what that means is, hey, we have basically an indecisive system, or
Mhm.
we don't have a handle on what we're supposed to feed into this thing. Like we can feed an input, we can feed the same input in multiple times, and get a different output.
Yep.
Then that's less than testable, right?
Yeah.
Um, because of that, then when we come to the table and we're talking to people, we're talking about testability to the higher ups, then in their mind, it's like, what the heck does that even mean? But people aren't going to ask questions. They're not going to, there aren't very many C-level people that would be like, I don't understand what you're saying because of the fear factor. They don't want to look dumb. I don't want to say I don't know anything. Oh yeah, testability, yes. Invest, all right. Budget, yes. Aha. But they don't actually know what it means. So for us to get back down again to the communication thing, it's like, what does that mean to us? Like, what does testability mean? And how can we explain that to people and get them to, not get them to understand, like, why can't you get this? But like come alongside them and help them understand, like, this is what this means. And this is why it's good, because the more testable your software is, the more likely we are to find those bugs that you want us to find, right? So it benefits you to think of it in these terms, but we got to the onus is on us to explain it to them in a way that they can understand.
Well, so let me put you on the spot.
Okay.
How would you explain testability to your 5-year-old?
Hmm. Holy moly. Well, I mean, she's 5 and she understands the concept of cause and effect. So I'd start there. I'd say, okay, you know how
Beautiful.
you take a ball, you throw it up in the air. What's going to happen? It's going to stay up there? No. Well, why? Well, it's going to hit the ground. Well, but why? And she might get the idea of gravity, like things always fall and stuff. Okay, so we'll talk about gravity. So this is testability, right? We think that every time we do this action, this is the result, right?
Yeah.
Now, if something were to ever happen where gravity didn't pull the ball back down to the ground, then that's what Daddy calls a bug, okay? There's a problem with physics, okay? And so now we have to log a bug with God. Hey, there's a problem here, and fix it. It's high urgent, right? But yeah, just kind of explaining testability in terms that they understand, right? A 5-year-old,
Yeah.
or somebody that's not technical, or somebody that's
Yep.
never run a test in their life and they don't understand that, right? It's like you got to communicate in terms that they understand. And the message is going to be different for every person, right? What I'm going to say to Carissa, our 5-year-old, is going to be different than what I say to our 11-year-old Lorica. She understands different concepts, but she's also more artistic. So I'd probably take a direction that way, you know, use it in terms of a picture or whatever, because she gets that. But yeah, man, that was a good question. How would I explain testability to a 5-year-old?
What I learned growing up, one of the things that I learned growing up is if you can explain any concept to a 5-year-old,
Mhm.
then you really know that concept very well.
Right.
Okay, so that has been my parameter for actually measuring how well do I know any concept, whether it is testing, DevOps, automation, coding, whatever.
Yeah.
If I cannot explain it to a 5-year-old, that means that there is stuff that I still need to learn.
Right.
Because if I am really good at it, then I can break it down with examples, and to that your gravity example was good. That's a good example. Log a bug with God.
Yeah.
I would love to see Jira, God's Jira.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
it's full guarantee. Oh my goodness.
it'll have it'll have so many issues, and
Yeah.
most of them would be marked as won't fix.
Yeah. The Jim Carrey movie, Bruce Almighty, where he was like, he took
Yeah.
on the role of God, and like his whole room was just full of like sticky notes. And I guess Trello wasn't a thing back then because, you know, let there be an easy to use project management board. Boom, done. Just move everything over here. Answered. Done. Won't fix. I love it. I love it. We have a
Won't
lot of
fix.
bugs in our.
I don't understand the concept of won't fix. I just don't understand. It's like, why won't you fix it? Won't fix? Okay, are you saying can't fix or won't fix? There is a huge difference.
There
When
is.
you say won't fix is like rude. It's like
Yeah. It's like, well, fine. See if I
somebody
send you a Christmas card this year. Ugh.
somebody some for the first time when somebody had marked one of my bugs as won't fix, in the comments I wrote that is rude. I
Oh,
actually wrote that because I did not know that won't fix was one of the status that the bug could move to. So
yeah.
it was bizarre. Well, so again, another question. Well, Kshitij, I know you want to hear my response of what young Brijesh would have said to Brijesh. You will have to allow me some time. I'm the one asking questions, so I get that liberty, but I'll try it. Okay. But in the meantime, let's ask this one to Fritz. Um, Testing culture needs a right mindset flowing top down. Have you ever struggled to get the right support? in terms of mindset issues. What did you do to fix things?
Mm. Yes. Yes, I have struggled to get the right support. And I realized that the struggle, anytime I feel that way about a situation, it's because I'm focused on the wrong problem. And good example, right? Just kind of as a like a technical example, right? It's like when you're trying to fix a particular piece of code or whatever, and you're just like beating your brains and like, oh my goodness, why can't I figure this out? Why am I so stuck? Um, I came up with a rule for myself. If I'm ever stuck for longer than 30 minutes, it means I'm not looking in the right spot. I'm trying to debug the wrong thing. It's like, that's not where the issue is. It's elsewhere. And in terms of getting the right mindset, the struggle was, oh my goodness, how come I can't get through to these people? Why can't they just learn like how to automate with this framework that I wrote, right? Like amazing. Why aren't they using it? And the actual problem was fear. They were afraid of change. They were afraid to try new things. And overall the company culture was promoting that fear. So when I realized that, I'm like, all right, time to reframe the problem. How do I just forget automation for a minute, but how do I help people be less afraid? And the answer to that was, well, come alongside and invite them to contribute. Don't just whip a piece of software together and expect them to use it. Like, pair up with them. Let's work together and let's automate a test. Or, hey, here's an extension that could be put in. I could do it, but I want to work with you because I want you to be dependent of me. I don't want you to have to rely on me because I'm only here for 6 months or a year or whatever. But I want to work with you on this. And helping that mindset, helping them, divorce themselves from that fear of, oh my goodness, I can't believe like this is going to take my job. Going from that victim to victor mindset is huge, because once you clear their brains of just that irrational fear of, oh my goodness, I'm going to work myself out of a job kind of thing, amazing things happen. Like all those issues, they go away, because people deep down, they're really creative. They want to succeed.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to do just awesome, just mind-blowing stuff. And sometimes that fear gets in the way. They downplay themselves. They don't think they can do it, or they don't think they're worthy, or they don't think they're valuable, right? But if you get that fear out of the way, it's like, dang son, I've seen light bulb moments. So that's what helps me. It comes down to just, it's fear. And I know that may sound like a woo-woo thing, but it's a scary field. Of all the people I've worked with, it seems like there's a lot more fear in the QA craft, because we're always being told, oh my goodness, automation is going to take your job, or you're obsolete, or you're not worth as much, or whatever. And it's like, you get told that for years, and eventually you start to believe it, until a guy like me comes along and helps you not believe that anymore. You're awesome. You just do cool things. Come on, let's rock the
Yeah.
socks. And yeah,
Well,
I
one of the most beautiful things that I heard in a long time
mhm.
is the victim to victor thing. And Kshitij also mentions the same thing. That was said so beautifully. Thank you for saying that. Well, I will try answering the young Brajesh to me question now.
Mhm.
So bear with me, Fritz. Kshitij, for you, young Brajesh would tell me today, if a young Brajesh would meet me, and he would tell me, stop being lousy and focus on your energy. And yeah, I am a lot more lousy compared to what I was about 10, 15 years ago. And yeah, I start to feel that, I need to focus on my energies, in a positive way. And I am getting my learning in in a hardest possible way that's happening right now. So yeah, that's what the young me would tell me today. Stop being lousy. get up and start working. Get up and get your act together. So that is the message that I would be getting. Well, we've gone a little bit over time. So is it okay if I take two more questions? Do you have
Yeah.
time for a couple more questions?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm good. I don't have anything going on until another half hour. I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Splendid. No, I would not take another half hour or something. It's getting close to lunch for you, so and you soon might have a ball coming in the direction of your of your truck.
I got the
Because
windows.
of playing
I
with
got the
that.
windows rolled up, and yeah, I am. I saw a question before. I am in my truck. I've actually got here. I'll give you the tour here. But I've got the extension cord in through the window here, so that's how I and there's hey, there's us.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's literally a truck. I do all of my podcasting out here. I've got like
yeah,
four
yeah.
different podcasts, and um, the acoustics are amazing. Every once in a while, one of the girls is like, "Bah!" next to the truck, and I'm like, I guess I got to edit that out. But this isn't my show, so it's your problem if they're really noisy. But yeah,
No, I'm not worried about them being noisy.
yeah,
My son is having all the fun today, so he's noisy probably. Probably
yeah,
people will catch that in the recording. So, anyways, that's life happening, and I
yeah.
like your setup for the podcasts. And I was going to anyways ask you this. I obviously need some pro tips for podcasts and things like that. So, what would be your top three tips for podcasters, if that's a word?
Um, top three tips. I mean, the top tip, it's all about the guest, right? I think I don't I don't feel like I've arrived or anything, but I've learned a lot. And when I start getting more frequent compliments from guests about, wow, you really made me feel welcome. Like I really like it was just two people talking, and it took me a few minutes to realize I've never met this dude in my life, and I'm telling him things I've never told any. They're like, that's how you know you're a good host, right? Um, but it's also about the listener as well. It's the guest first, and then it's about the listener, right? Because unless you're just doing a podcast because you like to hear yourself talk, right? I would imagine you want people to listen to your show, right? Um, what do you want your listeners to get out of it?
Yeah,
What do you want them to come away with? You want them to know about your company? Do you want to know about you as a person, your guests? Like, who's it for, right? And focus on being clear about what it is that your listeners are going to get. And then the third thing is it should be for you. Um, so guest first, then the listener, and then you. Um, there's a reason why you started podcasting, right? And you mentioned pay attention to your energy. There's going to be times in your life where you think, I'm kind of going through the motions. Listen to it,
yeah,
right? And if it's starting to feel like it's more like, every time you get on the other side of the mic, it's like, well, maybe it's time to change things up. Maybe it's time to freshen things up. You're still a person. You don't have to keep doing the same thing the same way every single time. But, yeah, that's what's helped me. And like you, I've learned those lessons accidentally, right? I started podcasting. I didn't even do these in my truck until later on. It's probably 3 episodes in, and I was like, man, it's noisy in that house. I need a quiet spot. Where can I go? I know, the truck. So it's
the
a quiet
conference
spot.
room.
Well, and it's a great conversation starter. So first
Yeah.
thing you need to park a truck in your room, and then there you go. Everything else will fall into place. Just get a truck in the house.
That's a very good tip. That's a very good tip.
Yeah.
Well, no, honestly, I started doing these interviews with testers, and from the very first episode, I realized one thing, and that was your tip, and I firmly believe in it. It is about the guest, and see, if I go to a show, okay, if I go to a show and if I don't feel welcome, I might not give the answers to very simple questions, you know,
Mhm.
easy ones as well, and the whole thing will not feel right. So my job as the host is to make my guest as comfortable as possible, get get the conversation going, flowing in a nice, easy manner,
Sure.
and thank God for us having been connected for, I don't know,
A while.
for how many years, I don't even
At
want to count.
least 2 months, man. At least 2 months, because that was that
and
was our first
and
conversation.
and it took such a long time for us to get into a video call, but that call, if you remember, it
Mhm.
was
It was good.
emotional. It was I was so happy, that I finally spoke to you on video. It
Yeah,
was amazing.
it
So
was.
one message that I have for people who are listening to this is, if you're talking to friends, try and get on a video call.
Mhm.
It helps. It helps a great deal. I know, internet bandwidth, blah blah, you know, internet cost, and mobile charges or whatever. You know, get go to a cafe, go to Starbucks. Use their internet,
Yeah.
but make that video call to your friend. It's a great feeling, and I can tell you this from my experience with Fritz. I mean, he's sitting here. He's given some wonderful answers. One last question, two questions, in fact, one from Kshitij and one from me. I'll ask mine first, Kshitij, if you don't mind. My question is, okay, so we spoke about testability.
Mhm.
The other thing, which is, in my opinion, the cousin brother of testability, is automatability.
Mhm.
Ignored. Okay, people don't pay attention to what's automatable, what's not. They just want 100% automation coverage,
Right.
which is the biggest lie one can think of.
I know, right?
100% automation coverage is probably the biggest lie
Right.
on this planet.
Spill that tea, bro. I'm not gonna disagree with that.
No, and I will say it as loudly as I can, because I have seen people talk about 100% automation coverage. Like I'm like, are you serious? Are you serious? 100% automation coverage. So my question is, automatability is also a similar problem like testability. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts?
I agree. Awesome. Next question. No, I'm joking. Um, no, it really. So there's something that I 100% agree. I think that it's really important for testers and developers, at least, to work together very closely so that that doesn't happen. Because I I write code a lot, and I've been in a corporate environment where I have to write a lot of code. I got to hit a deadline, and it's a funny thing, but the smartest people that are really good at writing software will make some of the crappiest code when there's a deadline, right? And they'll just, I'm introducing technical debt and I know, but we got to, and then they never go back and fix it, right? Well, then it makes it a lot less automatable. What I
Yeah.
started doing was, when I'm writing any kind of automated test framework of any kind, I'll actually build some measures in there to kind of give a warning whenever things are looking a little bit nasty and it's getting to be difficult to find locators or whatever, especially if it's a UI type thing. That's where a lot of that mess happens, right? Um, so the way that I ended up doing it was, okay, well, instead of trying to come up with unique pieces of code for every activity that I'm going to want to do, um, I'll come up with like one piece of code that knows how to click a button of any kind, right? Or knows how to select from a drop down of any kind or write text into a text field. And that seems trivial on the surface, but what I see happen a lot of times with these companies where there's a lot of old stuff, new stuff, medium level stuff, different developers, different styles, like a button on one page and a button on another page might look the same stylistically, but you look at the DOM and it's like well, one's an A and one's a button and one's an input. Like what the heck, right? Pick a way to locate buttons. And if there's more than like 2 or 3 ways that you have to use to find a button, then pop up a thing and say, hey, just want to let you know you're incurring some technical debt here. So that should give the tester a good note, a good reason to go talk with the developer and say, hey, you know what? I get it, but we need to kind of tighten this up here because it's going to get less automatable and it's going to slow us down and it's going to slow everybody down. So it's a good point for communication, but at least we're using a little bit of technology to go, hey, your code's getting kind of gross, guys. You need to fix this, right? But yeah. Uh-oh, it looks like you're on mute, sir.
I'm having a lot of background noise.
That's okay. I heard it too, man.
Yeah, my
It's life.
my 3-year-old is going crazy. He's having he's having the time of his life now.
Yeah, is he? It's busy. I can do whatever. Woo! Yeah.
Yeah, he's screaming on the top of his voice, and he loves his fire trucks. You know,
Yeah.
he loves his fire trucks. We have like from this size to this big, all sizes, and
Yeah.
he knows a lot more about fire trucks than I have learned in all these years. He knows every little detail about it. And I'm like, you just join a fire station. You don't need education and stuff like that. You just become a firefighter.
Yeah.
And that's a noble profession. So
Yeah.
I'd be very happy if he's
Full-size
saving
fire trucks
lives.
there. Yeah.
That's a fantastic profession to be in, highly
Mhm.
respected. So please, please, if you're so interested, save the trouble. Don't go to school. Don't go to college. Go to a fire station. Find work.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Yeah, but anyways, uh, okay. So I said two, but we'll I said two questions, but we'll take three. Here's the first one that I would like you to take, or the second one. While changing careers, what was the thought process you had during that time? So
I'm
what
excited
what
about this question.
yeah what did you go through? What were you going through? So when you became or when you started your company, your business,
Hmm.
what was going through your head?
You know, what was going through my head the most was just a mix of, it's almost like an identity crisis, right? Like when I started Arch DevOps, you know, I had gotten into software development, testing, automation, um, just a lot of different stresses came and kind of propelled me to different levels in my career where I was like, well, now I'm a contractor, now I'm a consultant, now I'm, you know, people are coming to me, they're seeing me as the expert, right? And then becoming a business owner seemed like the next logical step. And it's kind of funny, but when I tell people this story, I'm like, I literally thought to myself, how hard could it be? I don't know if any of you have started a business, but it is freaking hard. And don't let younger Fritz tell you otherwise. He is wrong, because it is difficult. Okay, but a lot of what a lot of what my thought process was, and it's still going on to this day, has to do with identity. Like, okay, who do I really identify as? Am I Fritz, the test automation guy, or am I Fritz, or am I Michael, or do I have other skills that make up who I am? Like, why do I want to help people? What impact do I want to have on the world? And and how can I make more impact? And I think that I didn't realize at the time, but that was one of the hidden reasons why I started the business was I wanted to have a much bigger impact on the world around me. And I couldn't do it just being a full-time employee somewhere. I'm like, okay, I gotta diversify. I gotta split my time amongst multiple companies, or I have to hire some people to take care of some of the execution so I can focus on sales and marketing and pipeline and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, it's an ongoing thing. Like I said, it is like starting a business. If you ever want to get on the path of self-improvement, definitely become an entrepreneur. Okay, you're going to learn stuff like crazy. It's nuts. And it's just like I said, it's an ongoing process. But the more I learn about myself, the more I'm seeing individual facets of what makes up me, Michael Fritschus. And I'm like, well, I like doing this. Well, I can start up a business doing that, or I could focus my time over here, or there's this group of people that I never would have met, and I can invest my time in them, and impact their lives. And overall, it's like I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm changing, and every day is different. Every single day is different. So I haven't
Excellent.
arrived.
Thank you so much for that. And we will go to probably the last question of the day.
All right.
What are the books that you would suggest for every tester?
I saw that and I'm like, if he asks me and I don't have an answer,
Please.
that's like, that's one of the best questions. Shatij has been blowing it up. Does he do this all the time with all your AMAs, or is it just
Yes,
me?
yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Okay. Asking some
He-
hard stuff, man. Okay. Well, I've got Audible. I was down here to like, I can get Audible up, so I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna talk about some ones that I've got. Specifically for testing, first one I can think of is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Um, I love this book. If you listen to it, you definitely want to give it at least 2 or 3 listens. Really internalize this stuff, because the future is going to be focused on communication as it relates
yeah,
to testing. We're going to have to get awesome at talking to people, but also building that real deep rapport where people feel comfortable sharing things with us that they wouldn't normally, right? So that's a good one. Another one is The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle, Coyle, Coyle. I heard about this book from a good buddy of mine, and this talks about company culture. And as it relates to testing, you know, we're at the center of a lot in every company. Like, a lot of information passes through us. And I think a lot of people don't realize that as testers, we're just like, it's a silo, it's over here. But we're in that critical path of a lot of things. So because of that, we've got the ability to make small changes in a company's culture and bring about the type of change that we want to see that helps with that. Um, better software quality, less fear, people are communicating with each other. But we have to know what that example looks like in order to do that. Um, Another one, let's see. This is a harder book, and I don't know if it may be the right audience for this, but there's a couple books. The first is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. These two guys are retired U.S. Navy SEALs, which I don't know how many of you know about the U.S.
uh,
military, but they're like the elite. Like,
elite. Yeah,
you send the SEALs in when you want something dead, like right now. Okay. Extreme ownership, and that's people that are wanting to make a change as far as, like, I want to be super responsible for. Yeah, Dusty's read that book, the Culture Code book.
yeah.
I think he was one of the ones that he might have been the one that told me about that book. I'm not sure, but Extreme Ownership is an awesome book.
I have read this one and Extreme Ownership both, the
Yeah,
Culture Code and Extreme Ownership, and I
it,
think
yeah, it's a really good book. And so Extreme Ownership is about, what does it mean to really take responsibility, and when you take responsibility for things like at a really high level, then people trust you more. They know you've got their back.
mm,
The problem is that these two guys, when they wrote this book, they were like, well, there were some people that were swinging it too far the other way, and so they were like, well, that's too extreme for U.S. Navy SEALs to say something is too extreme is something, right? So they wrote the next book, which is The Dichotomy of Leadership. Kind of counter that and say, okay, well, it's kind of a narrow path here, but we want to make sure that what you're doing. And so that's good focus. The next book is Start With Why, Simon Sinek.
yeah.
Classic. I think a lot of people have read that one.
Oh
But
yes.
if you're struggling to find out, like, okay, what's my role here? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? If you're struggling with identity, it's like, start there. That's a really good one. And let's see. There is, I think the last one. I was really impressed with this book, but I have a couple books in my list here, which they both have light switches on the cover, and I can't remember what specifically this one was about, but it's called Switch by Dan Heath and Chip Heath. I remember really being impressed with that book. But
Switch.
yeah, Switch. And problem is I can't specifically remember. I mean, if you Google it, you can be like, yeah, Switch by Dan Heath and Chip Heath. But it was one of the books I listened to 2 or 3 times, and I've just so deeply ingrained whatever lesson it was that I learned in there that now I'm like, well, was it Switch or was it the like switch? Like, I can't remember which one, like what. So this one is the better of those 2 books. So those books, and I hope you all are writing it down. You wrote all that down. There's so many books here. There's so many books, and there's just some really good learning out there. But any book really overall that helps you overcome fear, learn about communication, build rapport and trust with other people, and be perceived as that safe person that people can come to you about, those are really good books. So dig in.
Those are some really good books. Some of those I have read, some I
Yeah.
haven't. So I will add those to my reading list.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the testers, whoever is in this call, will benefit from that. So awesome. Well, I want to thank the audience for joining in. Dusty, you should also be on this show, so I'll get in touch with you soon.
Get 'em.
Uh, it'll be fun to get some of those answers from Dusty, right?
Yeah.
And he's well. I'll reach out to you, Dusty, soon. So be ready for my message, and we'll take it from there. It'll be interesting. Well, and he talks about the contents of Switch. So he's obviously a very well read, very very well read guy. So so Fritz, I want to thank you, especially because you did this and Dusty came along and
Yeah.
and he's been asking those wonderful questions and sharing his knowledge. So
I
thank you
love
so
it.
much. Thank you so much, Fritz, for doing this.
Thank
It's
you.
unbelievable, and I'm so happy and so proud that I finally did this. You know,
I'm happy too, man. I hope this isn't the last time. So once you get through your
no, it is
rotation
not. It is
of
not.
good, awesome.
No, always loved talking to you all these years, and now doing this AMA with you. Thank you for that for those wonderful answers. Fantastic, you know, questions from the audience. Thank you, audience. We will see you in another episode of What Lies Beneath Ask Me Anything series. And, let's keep chatting. Join the Test Chat community. Be a part of it. Watch the other videos. I will put a link of, Matthew Middleton's video in the description of this particular video. You can go and check that out, where he speaks about generalization or overgeneralization of the testing craft. I think that was a good conversation that I had with him. And of course, there are a lot of different playlists other than the AMA. There is a very famous Tester Speak series hosted by some guy, you know, some guy hosts it, but it's a good series. There are 54 episodes covering 54 different testers from around the world, and the good part is we managed to do 53 of those in a year. So it was like more than one per week. So that was a good achievement for us. So yeah, so fun conversations. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Bye bye.
Bye.